Funding for Idaho Reports is provided by the Friends of 4, 10, and 12, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by a grant from the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation.
We are adjourned.
Tonight we'll look at more of the important Idaho State Senate races, including this important contest between Rusty Barlow and Dwight Horsch in southeastern Idaho. We'll also look at the Ada County race, where Democrats think Darrell Salaz can beat Republican Bernie Rakoczy. And in Kootenai County, we'll get a report on the Senate race between Republican Dennis Carlson and Democrat Mary Lou Reed. Good evening. Next Tuesday, when the election ballots are being counted in courthouses all across Idaho, most people in this state will be watching closely the outcome of the United States Senate and congressional elections. No question about it, they are elections of great importance. But farther down the ballot, elections for the state legislature are in many ways just as important for the political future of this state. Those races, really about 10 in all in various parts of Idaho, will decide how much political clout Republicans and Democrats will have in the next session of the Idaho legislature. Tonight we'll be looking at 3 more of the spirited campaigns for the state Senate, each critical in its own way to whether Senate Republicans will gain enough seats to override Democratic Governor John Evans's veto. Democrats must win at least 15 seats in the new Senate in order to assure that the governor's veto can be upheld. The governor's veto has been critical to Democrats in the past to prevent, for example, the passage of a right-to-work law in Idaho. And right-to-work is an issue in one Senate race where both Democrats and Republicans badly want to win. That race is in one of the new so-called flotarial districts in extreme southeastern Idaho, the District 29 race. Paula Whistle in Pocatello has our story on the campaign there.
Oh, do you want to be lifted up so they can see you too? Yeah, that's a way.
In one of the most watched contests in the southeastern corner of the state, Pocatello electrician and former legislator Rusty Barlow is facing off against Aberdeen farmer and current state representative Democrat Dwight Horsch.
You gonna come over and help Dad?
I think
Dad?
so.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we told him to send over a new machine, but I don't know.
This is a race that's been in full swing since midsummer, with both candidates frequenting the tractor pulls, parades, and fairs that are a part of summer and fall in these 7 southeastern counties of the state that make up this large flotarial district.
Hello. How are you folks?
Barlow has made an issue of the fact that Horsch voted against 2 state legislative memorials in support of locating the new production reactor at the Idaho National Engineering Laboratory, the nuclear research facility located in eastern Idaho. The INEL site is one of 3 in the country being considered by the Department of Energy for location of the nuclear reactor.
He has voted against the 2 memorials asking Congress to locate the nuclear production reactor at the INEL. And I feel the sad part of it is that he was the only legislator adjacent to that site that failed to support those jobs that would bring.
Well, I'm definitely not against jobs, nor is any other legislator. Nor am I dead opposed or dead set against the National Production Reactor, the NPR. My issue with that is the sponsor of the legislation could not tell me where the water was going to be placed, and as an irrigator and a farmer sitting on top of the aquifer downstream from INEL, that was of great concern to me and the other legislators from even the Republican Party that happen to be downstream farmers.
To expect the sponsor of a bill to answer that kind of a technical question is really unfair to the sponsor, especially when that information is readily available just for the asking. The Idaho section of the American Nuclear Society has been at the legislature. They usually spend about a week up there answering all kinds of technical questions for legislators. They hold seminars. They'll come down at your desk and answer any question that you want answered. They'll go out to supper with you. He admitted that in that 2-year period that he had never once even sought an answer, and to my knowledge, he still hasn't sought that answer.
Anytime you have an issue that is basically a federal issue, and the bill is a memorial, we have some 2,000 bills in front of us every year, state issues that we can do something about and spend our staff and our own personal time on versus trying to worry about Senator McClure's job and Senator Steve Sims' job in the United States Congress.
I'm Senator Jim McClure. I want to introduce a good friend who deserves your support.
As chairman of Small Business for Reagan, Rusty Barlow is working to create jobs for the unemployed. I have appreciated Rusty's support for my efforts to attract the NPR to Idaho. Idaho workers can and will have 6,000 NPR job opportunities, but only if you have a state senator who will stand by my side in the fight for NPR, a man like Rusty Barlow.
The National Production Reactor is 10 years down the road at the earliest, and what we're voting on now is we need jobs in 85 and 86. In regards to my opponent versus myself, I've been always among the top in the scorecard of the Chambers of Commerce's across the state as far as their support of legislation. He has been among the lowest. I supported highly the Industrial Revenue Bond legislation of 82. My opponent voted against it. I carried the piece of legislation and authored the piece of legislation called the State Investment Tax Credit Bill of 1981. That had a $19 million jobs impact the very first year it come on. All of those pieces of legislation that I just spoke of are climate-type legislation, giving business the opportunity to grow and prosper and expand and create jobs.
Rusty Barlow has also attempted to launch the offensive on the issue of funding for higher education, claiming that he has a 5-point plan to increase support for Idaho State University. Dwight Horsch counters that Barlow hasn't always been a positive voice for education.
The thing we need to do now is to form a caucus, an ISU caucus. And that caucus will be formed of Republicans, some Democrats, conservatives, liberals. You know, let's forget about the labels when it comes to that issue, and let's show a united support for our university, and let's let each other know what's going on so that when the university people come down and present a budget or have a problem, that we know what's going on.
He has somewhat of a methodology in using a 5-point plan to save ISU, and my feedback to that is when I served with my opponent in the legislature, the 5-point plan we needed was 1 vote a year. Every year that he served, that vote for higher education, where he was a negative vote and I was a positive one. And I think the people of the ISU community and those interested in that facility and that function of higher education in this part of the world has seen through Rusty a long time ago, and they know where my record is as far as support of higher education, and it's been very pro-higher ed.
Elect Dwight Horsch to the State Senate for Idaho.
Idaho, you're my home.
Paid for by the committee to elect a man called Horsch.
Whether the voters choose a man called Horsch or Rusty Barlow for senator is difficult to predict. This campaign has cast both candidates into untested waters. They're having to run in towns and counties they've never campaigned in before. And the sheer size of this flotarial district makes it difficult for both Horsch and Barlow to have direct contact with a lot of the voters.
We attended a Meet the Candidates session last night in a schoolhouse that didn't have as many people there to listen to the candidates as here in this living room. So I think it says well for Oneida County. And
Barlow is expected to do well in the southernmost part of the district, the staunch Republican territory of Bear Lake, Caribou, Franklin, and Oneida counties. And Horsch is favored in the farming communities of Power County, where he's well known. The race will probably be decided in the 2 most populous areas of the district, Bingham and Bannock counties. Because Pocatello and Bannock County are heavily unionized, the right-to-work issue could play a part in this match. Barlow favors so-called right-to-work legislation. Horsch opposes it. But earlier in the campaign, the State Freedom to Work Committee revealed that Horsch had requested money from their committee. Horsch says the letter was simply a mistake.
I did not request money from Freedom to Work, and if they had sent it by mistake of not being able to read my thoughts of the letter, I would have returned it.
Are you worried about losing the union vote?
I need the union vote, and I'll have it. I don't think it's going to hurt me a bit.
if we don't have jobs, we don't even have the luxury to debate. You know, that man out there that's unemployed doesn't have the luxury to debate whether we have a right to work law or not. I think the important thing is that we attract jobs, and that's why I'm stressing that in my campaign.
With less than a week to go now before the election, that Barlow-Horsch race is widely seen as being very close, with some observers just in the last few days giving perhaps Barlow a slight edge. In many ways, for Democrats, that is a must-win election if they hope to prevent a veto-proof Republican Senate in 1985. Our second story tonight focuses on a Senate race in Coeur d'Alene. The district is 2, the race between Dennis Carlson and Mary Lou Reed, and it's generally regarded as a toss-up. Producer Ann Summerall has our report on that campaign.
The Democrats' veto power in the state Senate may come down to their ability to pick up a seat here in Kootenai County. Although Republicans have had a slight edge in recent years, this is a county that can and has elected candidates from both parties. Some observers think the Democrats' best shot is in a race between two newcomers, Republican Dennis Carlson and Democrat Mary Lou Reed. For Reed, the campaign trail has already been blazed. She ran for the House of Representatives in 1982 and was narrowly defeated by Dean Hagenson. Actively campaigning since the primary, Reed, for the most part, has been ignoring her opponent and concentrating on promoting herself. She's utilizing the campaigning techniques of door-to-door, billboards, newspaper, radio, TV, and yard signs to promote her abilities.
So this November, if you want someone to battle them in Boise and return with respect and tax dollars, Mary Lou Reed. Tested, tough, reliable.
Republican Dennis Carlson is a former schoolteacher. Presently, he farms over 400 acres on the Rathdrum Prairie. He is also using the conventional techniques to campaign. While Reed's campaign materials refrain from directly attacking Carlson, he has some harsh things to say about her.
His opponent is a longtime environmental extremist with a record of keeping good things from happening. She was an early opponent of cheap hydroelectric power. And look what's happened to your power bill.
There's a good chance that my opponent will try and label me as some sort of environmentalist and a single-issue candidate, and I think that that is very, very ludicrous. I think perhaps I'm more apt to be labeled a single-issue person who has worked in the utility field fighting for ratepayers' rights than as an advocate for any other single cause.
One of the environmental issues that separates Reed and Carlson is grass burning on the Rathdrum Prairie. This is a concern that has pitted the grass burners against the environmentalist and area's tourist industry.
Oh, I am in favor of every possible way of keeping the grass growing industry alive unless it is in conflict with the health of the people in Kootenai County. I think the growing conflict between the health concern, as Kootenai County becomes more populated, between the health concern and the ability of the farmers to manage the smoke, I think that conflict is down the road one in which the grass burning industry probably will be phased out. It is an emotional issue. If you're sitting on the beach in Coeur d'Alene in the summertime and you only have 3 or 4 days of beautiful weather and the smoke rolls over, no one is going to say, let's be rational about this. They're going to say, we don't deserve this, we deserve our summers.
Well, you have to look at the economy of Kootenai County. Grass growing agriculture is a major industry in Kootenai County, as is tourism, as is the forest products industry. They all create problems. I'm not going to go down there and be a one-person or a one-issue senator with just my whole impetus on agriculture in Kootenai County, because we've gone through 2 agonizing years in getting new sets of regulations developed with the Department of Health and Welfare to regulate and govern the grass field burning here in Kootenai County. Those things have gone through board adoption, and they should be in place for next year.
I think that he has not been very visible on the campaign trail, and of course he has been continuing to act as the paid person, the lobbyist, and the staff person for the grass growers into these campaign months, which has definitely clouded the issue, put up a smokescreen almost.
My role in that has been in the past, I've been executive secretary of the Grass Growers Association. I resigned that position shortly after the primary, and I will not go back into that position if I am elected. I don't really see there is any conflict of interest there.
In Kootenai County, the future of electric power rates has been tied to the controversial Whoops plants. Faced with the possibility that they may never produce electricity, the two candidates differ on what ratepayers should pay.
Yes, legislation is needed to make sure that ratepayers do not have to pay for a dry hole such as Skagit or Whoops 3 may be. If they aren't going to receive any electricity, they should not have to pay for it. They should be protected from that by statute.
To a certain extent, the ratepayers should say, if it was sound business judgment 5 or 10 years ago, then yes, I think they should be subject to some of it. If it's bad business judgment, no.
An initiative on the ballot this November to remove the sales tax from food could cost the state treasury an estimated $20 million. Most observers expect the initiative to pass. The question then becoming, how will the legislature make up those monies?
Well, the quick and easy way is half-cent sales tax on other things. That's the quick and easy way. I think we need to look at a lot of other things, however. We need to look at, for highways and things, for example, we can begin, I think, to look at increasing or bumping up a little bit on our fuel taxes, because that would be an income that is generated from the people that are using that particular governmental service, the highways. We need to look at our overall tax structure as far as what are the loopholes, what areas or what parts of our people in our state of Idaho are paying what burden of the taxes.
We have to look to the exemptions on the sales tax, such as INEL. We have to look to some degree at whether or not the property tax is fair, and of course there is the whole question of investment tax credits and whether or not some of those should be analyzed.
2 years ago, Carlson served as the treasurer for a Democratic candidate. He now calls himself a moderate Republican, saying he will vote independently.
And I like to view myself not as being essentially in the middle, but more on the conservative side of the middle, but close enough that I can work on both sides. And so that's why I say I'm stealing their slogan in restoring the balance in Kootenai County. Let's send a senator down that is more in the middle, more to the balance of what's going on in the county, can work with both sides of the political spectrum and maybe get something done for the county.
Well, I think that he is perhaps naive in thinking that he can switch and become a Republican and then go to Boise and vote just his own convictions. I think once he has decided to become a member of the Republican Party, he is going to be called upon to vote with the Republicans from South Idaho and southeastern Idaho, and will not have the freedom that I think he thinks he would have to vote his own conscience.
The candidates differ on issues, styles, and political philosophy, but Carlson says there's an even more striking difference.
Well, I think the major difference between Mary Lou Reed and myself is that I work for a living, and I think the voters in Kootenai County realize that, because I haven't had time to campaign this summer. I've been working.
I think that's really very unfair, because I don't know of anybody who works harder than I am. I think that's one of the things that I have to offer, is that I am a hardworking person.
Our final election story tonight is Bruce Reichert's report on an Ada County race where Democrats think they have perhaps their best chance to pick up another seat in the state Senate. The district is 20. It's generally the southeast area of Boise. The candidates are Darrell Salaz and Bernie Riccozzi.
The Senate race between Darrell Salaz, a former state representative and a teacher at Fairmont Junior High School, and his opponent, Republican Bernie Riccozzi, has become the race to watch in Ada County. It's not because the differences between the two candidates are so great, they're really not. They both seem to reflect the moderate views of southeast Boise voters.
I believe in quality education. I think that some changes could be made that would maybe cut down some expenses. I think, in my opinion, higher education over the last few years has been getting a lower amount of the proportionate funds available.
Well, people in District 20 are very much concerned with the quality of education at all levels, because the district's essentially middle-class working people that have children in schools, and they're very much concerned with daycare licensing, as am I. And there's a lot of interest in hazardous waste disposal in Idaho.
What makes this race so important is that it's the best shot the Democrats have of picking up another seat in the Senate. The Democrats know that, and so do the Republicans. Republican Rakoczy accuses his opponent of being a single-purpose candidate because of his ties with the Idaho Education Association, while Democrat Salaz contends that his 2 years in the House make him better qualified to serve the voters.
Well, I think that I have more experience than he does in government. I have served in state government. I have served in the House Education Committee, the Local Government Committee. I've served on numerous commissions, joint committees of both the legislature, both houses of the legislature. I've served on the governor's special select committees. I've represented the state of Idaho, the pre-conference for the National Governors Conference 2 times, representing Governor Evans. I have a great deal of experience in government. I'd like to put that to work.
Darrell has served 1 term in the House, and he had, as you say, he has had legislative experience. I've been in Idaho since 1952. I spent a great number of years in the financial business and consider myself a businessman, and I think my business experience will be helpful in the legislature.
Do you think your close association with the Idaho Education Association has helped you or hurt you in this race?
Well, I think that essentially people in District 20 like teachers. I am a teacher, and I don't think that many people have any animosity towards me because of that, nor do I think that people will vote for me simply because of that.
The charges and countercharges between the 2 candidates is pretty typical, but what is perhaps not so typical is that a third group calling itself the Ada Citizens Coalition has in effect entered the race, with radio spots and newspaper ads blasting Salaz for some of his positions. In particular, the group is charging that Salaz has voted against the Sunshine Act and the open meeting law. And the chairman of the committee, George Bennett, has even accused Salaz of violating the Sunshine Act, a move which prompted Salaz to file a $355,000 libel suit.
I filed the lawsuit because, in my opinion, they have slandered and defamed my good name. Now, I don't have any problem with defending my public record. I'm proud of every vote I cast when I was in the legislature, and I'll be more than happy to defend every one of those votes in the proper forum. But they made certain allegations about my character that I find offensive to my family, and they should not be allowed to get away with that.
What's so wrong with these ads? You did vote against the Sunshine Law, and you did vote against the open meeting law, didn't you?
Now, that's a complete misconception and a distortion of my voting record. The fact is, they haven't given me the bill numbers that they're referring to, so I went back and researched 3 of my votes on the Sunshine Act. Every one of those bills would have changed the Sunshine Act, changed the intent of the Sunshine Act, changed the initiative as drafted by the people, and it seems to me that that's an inappropriate thing to do.
I asked Rakoczy if he agreed with the ads.
I haven't paid that much attention to it. Part of the ads that I've heard indicated that Darrell had voted a certain way. Well, I think that's public record, and I'm sure they were referring to his record in the legislature.
Do you know George Bennett?
In all frankness, if I have met him, I've met him once. I wouldn't know him to say hello.
A Statesman editorial said, and I quote, "It would be refreshing if Mr. Rakoczy would do the right thing and publicly condemn the group for its irresponsible actions." Do you plan to do the right thing?
Well, that's the Statesman. You have the Women League of Voters, you have the Timber Women of Idaho, you have all kinds of organizations that do their thing. I don't think any candidate can dictate to any of these coalitions or groups what they should do. I think that's part of the American system. But no, I decided to just ignore the whole issue and not get involved in it.
Do you think this raises the question of who really is then running your campaign, you or George Bennett?
Oh no, good Lord, I hope not.
Any candidate has no control over independent committees. They can do what they want virtually when they want to. But it seems to me that they know each other. I got a letter yesterday that came into my possession that was a front letter for a group associated with the John Birch Society. And interestingly enough, both Rakoczy and Bennett's names were on that as co-hosts of a seminar. So it seems to me that if they're on some kind of a board together or they work together in that capacity, that they know each other better than one would think.
Rakoczy, however, says he has no connection with the ultra-conservative John Birch Society. In 1978, Rakoczy ran for the House and lost by only 6 votes. This year, goaded by fellow Republicans who feel he needs to campaign more aggressively, Rakoczy is working harder than ever.
My opponent has me outnumbered tremendously in the sign area, and as you well know, in the legislative race, your name identification is very important. We have geared our campaign for a strong finish, and regardless of the polls, I think we'll have a good showing, and I firmly believe that we'll win the race.
But both candidates have been spending much of their time just replacing their yard signs.
I think, in all frankness, the big thing has to be Darrell is with the school system. He has been past president of the teachers union, and I think maybe some zealous people are getting out. You know, you can't say who's doing it. I've never caught anybody taking my signs down. I've found them stomped into the ground. I've found them ripped in half and thrown in the street.
Now, I've lost 4x8 plywood signs encased in 2x4 frames between midnight and dawn, and you better believe that's no sixth grader coming home from school.
No one denies that the Senate race in District 20 will be close. But with the name identification that Salaz enjoys, and with the district's pro-education leanings, most political pundits are giving the nod to Salaz.
My polls and my analysis indicates that I can win this race, and has from the outset. And I haven't seen anything lately that'll change my mind.
If I do what I have planned and hopefully will accomplish, I should win by about 300 votes.
If Republican Bernie Rakoczy does win that race by, as he suggests, about 300 votes, it would surprise a lot of people, including even some of his staunchest Republican supporters. Democrats aren't exactly saying that Darrell Salaz is home free, but most feel confident about his chances. Tomorrow night, we'll have another report on 3 of the other Senate races that political party pros and others have targeted as critical statewide. We'll look at a race in northern Idaho between incumbent Democratic Senator Vern Lannon and his Republican challenger Bill Nixon. They both seek the Senate seat in the Floterial District number 4 in far northern Idaho. In Canyon County, first-term Democrat Terry Riley is in an uphill fight to keep his Senate seat, a challenge from Republican Jerry Thorne. And in Ada County, 2 experienced women politicians, incumbent Democrat Gail Bray and former Senator Edith Miller Klein, are battling to represent the north end of Boise in the state Senate. And of course, next Tuesday night, election night coverage here on Idaho Public Television, the only statewide election coverage next Tuesday. Watch us and see your vote count. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Mark Johnson. Good night.
Funding for Idaho Reports is provided by the Friends of 4, 10, and 12, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by a grant from the Laura Moore Cunningham Foundation.